Bring out Elizabeth Selwyn.
Hast thou consorted with the witch, Elizabeth Selwyn? Burn the witch! March, in the year of our Lord, 1692, we, the people of Whitewood, Massachusetts, condemn thee as a witch.
Thomas Dunn is perpetuating false claims and lies about a custody case that was turned into a media circus when claims of satanic rituals, cannibalism, drinking blood, and human sacrifice was introduced by the mother of 2 children, both of whom were coached by her and her abusive boyfriend, Abraham Christie. This custody hearing and fact-finding was carefully and thoroughly investigated by a judge in England, and an official judgment was passed. I have linked to the final judgment below. Despite the 16 witnesses interviewed, the medical reports, and the children's own testimony all pointing to the fact that this was a poorly executed hoax, Thomas Dunn has decided to parade this hoax as a means to further his own selfish ends by marketing t-shirts, banners, coffee mugs, bookmarkers, a website, and his own YouTube channel Through the Black to not only profit from this travesty, but he also is widely spreading dangerous and harmful lies that directly impact the father and the 2 children in question. I had the opportunity to talk with Mr. Dunn about this case, and I was appalled to find out that he literally knows absolutely nothing about the details of this case.
I don't know how many people she interviewed. I think that's a good argument, and I can't explain why they did that. I don't know. I can't explain that. My feeling, and I'm speculating here, I don't want to sound so conspiratorial, but I mean, that's the way that I lean, right? Everybody was in on it. And
a licensed counselor?
No, I'm not a licensed counselor. I mean, and again, I'm not familiar with every single detail of what every person's, I could have did my homework a little bit better and gave you a little bit more of a show, maybe.
He is perpetuating this all based on his belief that the children, P and Q, in question, who later recanted their testimonies, were lying. I am retracting their names as they are minors and they deserve their privacy.
Why is it, or how is it, that the forces, the spiritual forces behind that have been able to remain so undefined or nebulous or not real?
Hello all, this is part 2 of my video addressing Thomas Dunn promoting the Hampstead Hoax. There is a link to part 1 below, along with several links to where you can find out more information. I recommend reading the family court Judgement and the blog Hoaxstead, both of which have been linked below.
So we want to take this testimony, this credible testimony from these kids.
Credible testimony? You mean the testimony the children recanted? The kids, P and Q, were obviously coached by their mother and her abusive boyfriend, who would abuse the children and give them licks if they got something wrong. That testimony?
And not only do we want to seek justice for what's been done, and not only do we want to ask for a real investigation by the London Metropolitan Police, or whatever they're called over there, and ask them to do a real investigation.
They already did this, Dunny boy. That's what the fact-finding judgment was about. Didn't you read anything about this case? I mean, you can read, right? I assume you can. You definitely can recognize mysterious and dark symbols posted on light posts.
Again, I don't know what... Somebody could make a video later on and laugh at me and say, oh, that's just a symbol for a band or whatever. I don't buy it. There's definitely more to this than what we're, there's more to it than what we see here.
From page 3 of the approved judgment. Number 9. This necessarily lengthy judgment has one essential purpose. It is to provide definitive conclusions upon the quantity of evidence at the end of a thorough-going hearing. I have surveyed the relevant history as well as all of the significant developments in a wide-ranging police and social service investigation. Everything of importance on all sides of the dispute has been considered so as to enable me to arrive at authoritative findings. These are care proceedings brought by the London Borough of Barnet relating to two children, P and Q, who are 9 and 8 years old, respectively. Their parents are Ella Draper and Ricky Dearman. In September of 2014, lurid allegations of the most serious kind were drawn to the attention of the Metropolitan Police. In a variety of ways, it was suggested that P and Q were part of a large group of children from North London who had been sexually abused, made to abuse one another, and that they had belonged to a Satanic cult in which there was significant pedophile activity. Specifically, it was said that babies were supplied from all over the world. They were brought, injected with drugs, and then sent by TNT or DHL to London. The assertions were that babies had been abused, tortured, and then sacrificed. Their throats were slit, blood was drunk, and cult members would then dance wearing baby skulls, sometimes with blood and hair still attached, on their bodies. All the cult members wore shoes made of baby skin produced by the owner of a specified shoe repair shop. Children, it was alleged, would be anally abused by adult members of the cult using plastic penises or willies. Christchurch Primary School in Hampstead was said to be where the main action occurred, but at least 7 other local schools were named. East Finchley Swimming Pool was identified as one of the other meeting venues of the pedophile ring. Rituals were performed, so it was claimed, in an upstairs room at the McDonald's restaurant where the boss allowed child sacrifice because he was a member of the cult. Human babies were prepared, cooked in the ovens within a secret kitchen, and then eaten by cult members. It was alleged that the children's father, Ricky Dearman, was the leader of the cult, and that others included the children's head teacher, Mrs. Forsyke, another teacher, Mr. Hollings, the priests at the adjacent church, a large number of named parents of other children, social workers, Kafka's officers, and police officers. It was said that in all more than 100 people were involved in doing sex to the children. I am able to state with complete conviction that none of the allegations are true. I am entirely certain that everything Miss Draper, her partner Abraham Christie, and the children said about those matters was fabricated. The claims are baseless. Those who have sought to perpetuate them are evil and or foolish. All the indications are that over a period of some weeks last summer, P and Q were forced by Mr. Christie and Mrs. Draper, working in partnership, to provide concocted accounts of horrific events. The stories came about as a result of relentless emotional and psychological pressure, as well as significant physical abuse. Torture is a strong word, but it is the most accurate way to describe what was done to the children by Mr. Christie in collaboration with Mrs. Draper. The children were made to take part and filmed mobile phone recordings in which they relayed a series of fabricated satanic practices. Subsequently, at the instigation of Abraham Christie and Ella Draper, the children repeated their false stories to Jean Clement Yahouri, Mrs. Christie's brother-in-law, in a late-night discussion. It lasted for about 3 hours. Mr. Christie and Miss Draper did most of the talking. The Metropolitan Police already did an investigation. They found the claims to be baseless. The witness, the evidence, and the children's own testimonies support this.
We have to try to do something because our friends over in the UK and over in Europe have been silenced.
The UK government is not silencing people for speaking about this. There were several news stories about this case after the father, school officials, priests, Kafkas, and the local police were cleared of any wrongdoing. People in the UK are free to speak about this case. Naming the children in the UK is being prevented, but this is for their own safety.
They've been silenced and they're not allowed to speak out against it. So here's our opportunity to speak out against it. And not only do we want to speak out against this, but we want to speak out against all satanic ritual abuse.
Not real.
And the way that we're going to do that is we are going to shout about this case.
Good. No, seriously, I mean it. I want you to have as much exposure as you possibly can. I want you to take this to Scotland Yard, Parliament, even the UN, if you have to. All of these agencies you will find corrupt in your paranoid, delusional world of SRA fantasy. Because according to you whack jobs, everybody is in on this. The police, FBI, CIA, Secret Service, public service employees, they are all satanic Luciferians according to you. Even the United Nations is supposedly tied to the elusive Illuminati that controls the world. So, yeah, Dumb and Dumber, I want you to have as much exposure as you can possibly get, because that is when your house of cards is going to tumble down. I want you to shout, scream, and lead the charge, because you are going to bring your own downfall, and I'm going to laugh my fucking ass off. You have my 100% support. I know it's all bullshit. You know it's all bullshit. And anyone investigating this will find it to be bullshit too.
So there's a few things that I want to ask people to do to get involved, okay? And we need your help to get the word out here. Guys, please keep in mind that in stores all across America, they're selling shirts that say, "Let's sacrifice Toby." And they're selling all kinds of shirts that are encouraging people in a joking way to get involved in Satanism and to get involved in the dark magic. And they're making a mockery out of the truth.
No, they are making a mockery of this silly notion that satanic cults are running around committing human sacrifice, where after nearly 35, 40 years this nonsense has been going on, every single claim investigated and no evidence found. McMartin Preschool, Franklin Community Credit Union, Oak Hill Daycare, and even the Evansville Blue House, all of which were proven to be hoaxes. Again, idiots such as yourselves still don't believe it, despite the lack of evidence, the bogus claims, the coaching of children, the absence of a victim, the absence of evidence.
I don't know at this point what people are thinking.
I think at the end of this video, you'll have a good idea what I am thinking.
All right. Tom, is this it? Is this it? We want to go after these guys. We are going after these guys, okay?
It is not your job to go after these guys. All you have is your opinion, and your opinion is not accurate. You have no evidence, you have ignored all the facts, and you do not accept the judgment that has been made by the judge in the UK who thoroughly investigated this matter. Instead, you choose to base your whole opinion on hearsay and innuendo, propagated by an insane woman and her abusive boyfriend who are playing you like a chump, instead of believing a police investigation followed by a court judgment. You prefer the rambling nonsense of a drug dealer and his accomplice that are currently on the run from authorities. You know absolutely nothing of this case, nothing of the judgment, the investigation, the ruling, the witnesses, the medical reports, the testimonies recanted by the children, nothing. You are truly dumb and dumber.
And we're going to expose them. We're going to pray for justice, and we're going to shout about this in a way that's never been done before.
Good. Shout, scream, yell. I fully support you, and I want you to take this as far as you possibly can. I want the truth to come out. Well, technically it's already come out, but you won't accept reality. What a shock. I want the truth. I want you to get as much exposure as you possibly can get.
Now, guys, we can't take over the world with cards.
You can't take over the world with cards? What an odd way to phrase that.
What we're doing is we are appealing to people's sense of social justice.
No, you are appealing to people's ignorance and their emotions. Choosing the Hampstead Hoax because you assume it is a case that is legitimate, and it is not, it is the single worst case you could have possibly chosen. You are very wrong, dunny boy. I cannot wait to see you take this to whatever authority you think will hear you, so I can laugh as you are exposed as the shill you are, so that your viewers realize that you don't care about children being abused at all. Where are the excess funds going, Mr. Dumb? Are they going to an agency that helps with child abuse? Here is a list of verified and registered agencies that advocate for child victims of sexual abuse. Please give them your money. One of my favorite organizations that I gave money to is the National Child Advocacy Center. They have been around since 1985, and oddly enough, they have nothing about satanic ritual abuse or Satanism, the occult, or even ritual abuse. They are actually doing something to help kids in real danger. How much money have you donated, Mr. Dumb? How much of the legendary campaign funds go to real charities doing real work? You are a fraud, a liar, a shill, and you don't care how many people you hurt along the way.
And for anybody that doesn't know, the children are now back in the hands of the perpetrator, of the abuser.
No, they are back in the care of their father. They were rescued from mental, emotional, and physical abuse and torture by the mother and her abusive boyfriend, the same responsible adult that exposed these underage children to THC when they were under his supervision.
But one of the things that we want to ask people to do is to go into these stores where they are, where they're selling these T-shirts. These stores are around you. They're in every mall. And we want to ask you to go in there and just, ask, can I talk to the manager? And just say, I don't know if you know it, but you have a shirt over here that's kind of making light of something that's very real.
Not real.
And all I want to do is I want to give you one of these cards and just ask you to kind of research this and take a look at it and do it loving, doing it with gentleness, and respect, and go in there. And I'm not necessarily trying to shut down the sale of the shirts, but I'm trying to appeal to the people and witness to the people.
Yes, you are, dunny boy. I mean, come on. At least be honest with your true intentions. Besides, I am sure this will go over very well.
Guy kicked me out of it was a pub or a bar or something there, and he cussed me out.
And maybe if you would put this in the manager's hands or the worker's hands and say, hey, I don't know if you know about this or not, but you might want to check this out, because this shirt over here, it's kind of frustrating for me, and it's offensive for me.
Oh, well, it's offensive to you? Well, let's not upset the poor Christian man who believes in pure nonsense. Mr. Dumb will pull that shirt right away. Oh, and thank you for pointing out how this imaginary scenario that is based on fiction offends you.
But I want you to know why. Take a look at this card right here, and if you go to this website, it'll explain what I'm talking about.
Nobody wants your crappy 3.5 by 2.25 piece of glossy cardstock.
And it'll explain what these children have been through, what they've seen. They've witnessed rituals. They've witnessed babies being killed.
Except they haven't, Mr. Dunn. They did not see rituals. They did not see babies being killed. This is a lie that you know to be a lie, and yet you perpetuate it. You know the children were coached. They were told to tell a lie. You know the investigation was thorough. You know the children recanted their false testimony and admitted they were told to lie. You know for an absolute fact that the mother and her abusive boyfriend, Abe Christie, told these kids to lie. They emotionally, physically, and mentally abused them. You are nothing more than a self-aggrandizing, narcissistic con man.
And it's an opportunity to spread the truth.
More like an opportunity for you to spread bullshit and sell your crappy drop cards or bookmarks or whatever you are calling those pieces of paper. What are you selling those for? $30? Damn, your audience is gullible. The truth has already been spread, dumbass. You think a professional judge in the family court in the UK, the police, Child Protective Services, and 16 witnesses are all colluding with school, a church, local police, Kafka's, and McDonald's to cover up a story that the children themselves admitted was a lie? You are simply insane and stupid at the same time.
And money is available now for billboards. Imagine the campaign growing and thousands of people seeing it on the highway that are going to the website, looking at the evidence.
Good, but why stop there? You guys really need to take this to the top. Take it to the FBI, CIA, Secret Service, government officials, and if you can, the UN. You have my full support. I am eagerly waiting for it.
We want to make them nervous.
Make who nervous? The innocent father nervous? Nah, he's not nervous. He was nervous when his ex-wife kept preventing him from seeing his own children. But no, not now. Maybe Ella Draper, the mother who abused and drugged her own children. Maybe she's a little nervous. The children, I think they're trying to recover, trying to move on with their life, let the past be the past and grow into healthy and beautiful adults. But instead, we have you, some long-haired, scraggly-bearded idiot from Ohio trying to expose this nonsense to the world and who's trying to squeeze a few pennies out of their suffering.
This is exactly what they don't want. Every time we talk about this case, we have trolls that show up out of nowhere.
Out of nowhere? Those trolls are called concerned citizens. People concerned that you spreading these lies is adversely affecting them and other people, namely the father and his 2 children. It adversely affects the school and the church and the people of Hampstead.
Out of nowhere.
Yeah, you already said that, anorexic Gandalf.
To try to silence us and try to discredit us. We talk about SRA all the time.
Not real.
On our show. But when we talk about this case, this is when they freak out.
Whatever you say, dummy boy. I don't want to silence you. Far from it. I want to amplify your voice. I want all eyes on you. I want you to be center stage. I want you exposed for the deceitful, callous, and corrupt, money-grubbing scumbag that you are. I set out to expose frauds and charlatans such as yourself. Nothing pleases me more. So, yeah, get billboards. Hell, run commercials on websites. There are avenues of exposure you haven't even explored yet. You know what? I got a website. I'll host your banner. Shoot me an email and I'll post your link on my homepage.
We live in a culture that loves social justice, and we can move on that.
Oh, just wait till those social justice people find out you're anti-religious, you're bigots, homophobic, and anti-abortion. Oh yeah, bring on the justice. Yes, you can.
I want to see this become a brush fire. Today, this is what we're doing.
Yeah, and I want you to make something of your life besides a modern-day snake oil salesman. Jared, I really hope you are not falling for this con game. One of you have to be a voice of reason.
A simple analogy. Tom and I have taken a handful of embers and we've tossed them up above a field in the wind, and we're hoping it starts a fire. We're doing everything we can to start a fire.
So, you want to start a fire? Okay, Beanie Boy, explain this to me. Who's going to put it out? How long is this fire going to last? Who's going to pay for the damages? Jared? Who? You? Mr. Dumb and Dumber here?
If somebody absolutely wants to get involved and they cannot afford to get involved, I will send out some cards in an envelope like this. Okay? Just send me an email. There has not been justice. That's why it says We demand Hampstead justice now. We demand the UK do a real investigation.
They already did an investigation, evil Shaggy, and the mother Ella Draper was not present for the hearing, even though they requested her to be there. Instead, she fled the country. The trial was thorough. The children admitted they were told to lie by their mother Ella Draper and her abusive boyfriend Abe Christie, and that the children made up the stories which they recanted. This was all documented in the final legal judgment cited below.
On this case, you know, and here's the thing. The investigator tried to trip these kids up and say, oh, so you've drank blood. What does it taste like? You know, and they said it tastes like metal.
The kids were coached on what to say. The children admitted to embellishing elements taken from the movie Zorro, and they were told to say certain things by their mother, Ella Draper, and her abusive boyfriend.
And they said, so you've been to your teacher's house. What did you see when you walked in the door? They described the furniture. They described the stand there. These kids did not have a, you know, they weren't reading a script. They actually experienced these things. They gave details of what their perpetrators, which happened to be their teachers, they gave details of what they looked like without their clothes on.
Not sure where you are getting this, dummy done. The children described secret doors and other elements from the movie Zorro with Catherine Zeta-Jones and Antonio Banderas. I just like saying Antonio Banderas. Antonio Banderas. As for what their teachers looked like naked or what was in the house, nope, it was quite the opposite. They did not know details. Again and again, as I watched the interviews of the 5th and 11th of September, my sense was that the children, for the most part, were in the realms of fantasy. There was an urgency and an excitement about what they were saying as the detail became ever more elaborate. It was as if they had been transported away from reality into a dreamland. There were obvious parallels in what P was saying with some aspects of the storyline in C.S. Lewis's The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. The decision to have a third interview arose because of the sheer amount of stuff emerging from the second, said D.C. Martin, and for clarification. During the drive to the interviewing suite, according to D.C. Savage, the children had said something along the lines of they had made up the allegations and was all to do with the Mask of Zorro.
The police never investigated this.
They performed an unannounced investigation of the church, where almost all the allegations were mentioned by the children as taking place. Nothing was found. Witnesses interviewed, nothing unusual, and the children were examined by a medical professional and nothing unusual was found. So no, dummy, there was an investigation. It was carefully conducted, all relevant evidence examined, and the final judgment was passed.
Never. They let the perpetrators go. They are now teaching in other schools. The head of it now, I mean, the kids are in harm's way. We've got to get angry about this. We have got to get mad and scream about this and let people know this is wrong. This cannot go on. We have to have justice.
No, you want people to get mad about this. You want them angry. You do not want people learning about this case. You want them blinded by rage. We have police, courts, and lawyers for a reason to investigate crimes, weigh the evidence, and prosecute or defend the accused. We do not need vigilante justice.
A couple of questions. So the first question was, what do you guys think about handing out Bible tracts or these things on Samhain or Halloween? What do you guys think about that?
I think you are an idiot, Chad. Halloween is a secular holiday. Samhain is a celebration of the end of summer. If you want to hand out chick tracts or dummies glossy cardstock, be prepared for your house to get egged.
Sean goes into the case. He interviews the mom on this. Today starts the campaign to make people aware, to, as Tom was saying with passion, to demand justice and to begin this case because it was dismissed. Anybody over there in the UK who started looking this, that you can see on their page, if you go back to the home page here, which is misdirected, but if you go back right here, you can see this. Let me share again. So you go to this page right here. You can see this video right here. This is a former policeman who investigated it, who gives his testimony on camera about his thoughts on whether the children were being prompted or not. And he says 110% these kids were not prompted or coached or trained to do anything. They 110% were giving their legitimate testimony to what they experienced.
His opinion doesn't fucking matter. I disagree with him 220%. He's wrong. The ruling judge in the family court examined all relevant evidence. It was her professional conclusion that the allegations were bogus, and the children themselves admitted it. This is a summary of my salient findings. Neither child has been sexually abused by any of the following: Ricky Dearman, teachers at Christ Church Primary School, Hampstead, the parents of students at that school, the priests at the adjacent church, teachers at any of the Hampstead or Highgate schools, members of the Metropolitan Police, social workers employed by the London Borough of Camden, officers of Cascas, or anyone else mentioned by Mrs. Draper or Mr. Christie. The children's half-brother, his father and stepmother, Will and Sarah Draper, are likewise exonerated of any illicit or abusive acts involving the children. There was no satanic or other cult at which babies were murdered and children were sexually abused. All of the material promulgated by Mrs. Draper, now published on the internet, is nothing other than utter nonsense. The children's false stories came about as a result of relentless emotional and psychological pressure, as well as significant physical abuse. Torture is the most accurate way to describe what was done by Mr. Christie in collaboration with Mrs. Draper. Both children were assaulted by Mr. Christie by being hit with a metal spoon on multiple occasions over their head and legs, by being pushed into walls, punched, pinched, and kicked. Water was poured over them as they knelt, semi-clothed. The long-term emotional and psychological harm of which was done to the children is incalculable. The impact of the internet campaign is likely to have the most devastating consequences for P and Q.
Look, there is a mom since 2015 who's on the run and hiding, and she doesn't have her kids. She's been separated because of this government. The separation alone. Think of this: somebody come in your house and take your young kids, and they took them from you because you brought to the officials' attention that they were being molested, and the result is they're taken from you, and then you're put on the run and you're the one accused, and then those children were put into the same place where all this was taking place, and our children are going to be continued abused.
They accused her of teaching these kids to recite this story and to make this story up, and to, and said that she was doing this to get custody of her kids. She already had custody of her kids.
She had been refusing to let the father to see the children. She wanted the father out of the picture. Thus, a scheme was hatched. Proper consideration should always be given to the context within which allegations are made. In this instance, years of court conflict over the issue of contact and Mrs. Draper's antipathy for Mr. Dearman provided fertile territory for the creation of false allegations and their reiteration by the children.
And guys, I've researched this so deeply.
No, you don't know anything about this judgment.
And she even says, why would I accuse the teachers of this? Why would I make up such a horrendous story to get custody of my kids when I already had custody of my kids? She had full custody of her kids.
Child abuse does happen, and it is a serious crime. However, there is no satanic cult running around committing these awful crimes. Tommy Dunn and others like him constantly shift the goalpost from generational Satanists that are immune to prosecution to individual psychopaths who claim to have committed murder in the name of Satan. When evidence is asked for, they provide individual cases that were tried and convicted. When asked why they never report these crimes, they claim Satanists are protected from prosecution. Anyways, thank you all for watching, and I will see you in hell, you heathens.
Not real.